Okay, still working it, moving this collar upward here. It goes up a little ways pretty easy, and then it gets pretty tough to do. I think it's all the way up. There it is. Makes that nice pop sound. You can even probably remember that when you're sitting on the seat of the John Deere 60 driving the thing when it makes that sound. Now you can see that with me fighting with it, also you'll see that now this thing's able to move. And one other thing I'd say quickly while we're talking about it is that this is the cam with the disc, and here's the cam and the disc is down below it. Right in this area here on the bottom side of that brake shoe, when this thing's engaged like this, there should be a 1/16 of an inch clearance, so you can take yourself a piece of baling wire or whatever and mic it out to 0.063 and slip that underneath there. Make sure you've got a 1/16 of an inch of clearance there. If it's all put together correctly, that's the way it ought to be. Now, even with that thing engaged like that, you can take a hammer, gently move parts into alignment. And you want to make sure that all 6 of these rows are nice and vertical, and that these drive discs aren't some of them sticking out farther than others, because if they are, then it's not going to go back into that drum with disc part in the tractor. So I'm going to shut the camera off and finish adjusting all these parts to where they line up very nicely. So I've kind of taken a hammer and a straight edge, and I've worked all those parts into where they're in very nice alignment. One thing that I also did, remember I talked about the gap that you needed down here underneath the brake and the disc on the cam, and it should be a 1/16 of an inch. Unfortunately, I took a piece of baling wire, 0.057, and tried to sneak it in there. And it's just a little bit tight, so I need to give that a little bit more room, which is disappointing because that means I've got to go through all this again, but we might as well get it right if we're going to do it. And I'm looking for one more part here, one more screwdriver I should say. There it is. So we got to put this collar back down. You can take and put a screwdriver right between the top of the collar and that bottom clutch plate, both sides. Kind of start working that down, and so there the clutch is disengaged again, and you'll notice that nothing will move. It won't rotate anymore. But now I've got access to my set screw, and I can run that all the way in and then turn this, I believe, clockwise, which should force that down just a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so hard for you to see, but over here I took that set screw and I ran it all the way in, and then I took this adjusting collar and I turned it clockwise a half a turn, and I'm going to try that now and see if that gets me my necessary clearance on the bottom. So we're back to the place where we need to re-engage the clutch. Which is not exactly my favorite thing to do, but I pre-aligned all the parts as best I could. I know that when this thing snaps over center, it's gonna probably get things kind of out of position again anyway, but you do the best you can, right? boy, does that thing have some power to it. Now, yeah, I won my battle with that. A half a turn was just about perfect. Might have been just a little bit too much, but not much. I'm happy with it. So what I've got to do now is kind of check these again, make sure they're all still perfectly in alignment. Didn't really move around too much. I want to make sure that everything's lined up well so it fits back on the tractor. And at that point, it's ready to go back on the tractor.